guys, it's KJM, and you guys know what time it is. It's time for another brand new Hallmark, new movie, new year movie. Spring has sprung, and so far, in springtime, Hallmark gave us a lot of reruns for movies that were on Hallmark Movies and Mysteries in March. But in April, they're trying to come back strong, and they're giving us back-to-back new movies, which Megan and I are both excited about. And even though it's taking me a while to do these reviews and drop them, do know I'm always watching Hallmark, and I'm always watching Hallmark Movies and Mysteries, which means if something new came out, I watched it. I just haven't had time to review it. Life is lifing, but one thing is for sure, I am still a Hallmarkie. I am watching the movies, and I am ready to give you a review for the Blind Date Book Club. It premiered like 2 Saturdays ago at 8 p.m. Eastern on the Hallmark Channel, and it is starring Erin Krakow and Robert Buckley. So here's the funny thing. I know that a lot of you are When Calls the Heart fans and are big fans of Erin. Megan and I either think Erin's movies are a miss or hit. I thought It Was Always You, starring Tyler Hynes, with Erin. I thought that one was cute. I really love the wedding cottage that she did last springtime with Brandon Penny. I really did enjoy that. It was just a super cute movie, and I was like, okay. So when I saw the Blind Date Book Club come up, I was like, this is a very interesting concept. I don't know how I'm going to feel about it, and then with Erin, it could be miss or hit. So I was like, I'm just going to go into it with open eyes. Here's the good news. Megan and I both watched this movie. So Megan finally got to it, I think, at the end of this past week. And we both thought it was super cute. I'm actually giving this movie a 7 out of 10. And you know my rules. If I rate it a 7 or above, that means it's definitely a must-see. And Hallmark, we're glad to see that you're back and you're on schedule. I thought the plot for this movie was super cute. It's supposed to take place in Nantucket, but I think I read somewhere that they were really somewhere in British Columbia, but it's okay. This movie gives you scenery and views, and I could appreciate it. I thought the two leads had great chemistry, and overall, I was very pleasantly surprised about how much I enjoyed this movie, because I think so far the new movies that came before this, I was just like, Hallmark, like y'all could do better than this, okay? Y'all are losing me. So we're back with the Blind Date Book Club, 7 out of 10. We're saying this is great. Let's get into the plot. Let's talk about what I liked, what I didn't like. All right. So Meg is a bookstore owner of a bookstore in Nantucket, and she basically inherited this bookstore from her mother. So prior to being in the bookstore, she was, I think she was in real estate. So she really thought real estate was her passion. But when her mom passed, she took over the bookstore, and she just thought, okay, I'm going to make this work. She's tried to get very creative into getting people to read and love reading. Okay, so can I tell you, I've always been a bookworm, but I do not have that much time to read for fun because I read so much in my regular day life that it's so hard to have time to read for fun. 2017, I think, was the last year that I read maybe 7 or 8 books while I was on vacation during that year, and I read them from all different genres, and I felt so alive. So if you are not into reading and don't think you're into reading, there's a genre for you, or there may be several genres for you, because when I read, I feel like I am transformed. I am. Though I've never been part of a book club. So the concept of the Blind Date Book Club is that, Meg is going to choose a book, and it's going to be wrapped up blindly. She's going to choose a book, and the whole club is going to read it. People come together, they talk about the book, and some people do find love at the Blind Date Book Club. Though Meg has pointed out that the focus is not really to fall in love, the focus is really to fall in love with the books. But if you can fall in love with a book and fall in love with a person at the same time, then it's extra special. And that's what the Blind Date Book Club sets out to do. It sets out the readers in us to fall in love with not only the plot and the actors and actresses, but to fall in love with the fact that reading is still exciting. at any age, okay? Because we try to tell, I know I try to tell my nieces and nephews, like, reading is so important. Like, I loved it. I, was reading at an early age, but I know not everybody feels that way, but I definitely was one of those, bookworms for sure. Anyway, so in comes Graham. He is a writer, and he writes these up and coming from teenage to adulthood books, and he is due for his 8th book. And he doesn't want to do his 8th book. He wants to write something different. So he did write something different. Only when his editor read it, his editor was like, I hate to say it, it's not as good as your 7 series. You just need to put number 8 out. Now, at first I was like, ooh, typical editor, just like, discouraging Graham from being able to follow his new passion. He wants to write books about when you are an adult. And he tries to write romance along with adventure. And his editor just thinks it stinks. So he heard about the Blind Date Book Club after listening to a podcast. He decides to go to Nantucket. He decides he's going to be there for a while. And he's going to see if he can get Meg to premiere his book in the Blind Date Book Club to see what other readers thought. Meg is not so much sold on it, but since Graham published the book under a pseudonym, he didn't publish it under his name. He figured he was taking all the risks, and it doesn't necessarily affect the 8th book that everybody else is waiting on. But he kind of miscalculates that, because once it's out that he is the person that wrote this book, it definitely brings some fire, not into just the book club, but also into his relationship or his soon-to-be brooding romance with Meg. So, he finally convinces Meg to use her powers that be, and she does it for a friend. Instead of selecting a book blindly and wrapping it up for everybody, she already knows what the book is. She read it. She didn't like it. She said there were some things missing from it. So Meg and Graham's editor, they both agree that this is not the direction he should go. It's not that he can't write, but this story is not fully developed. Yet Graham really wants to still tell this story. But the area that he's falling short on the most, which is very comical and ironic, is romance. He doesn't seem to know much about romance. So little does he know he's in Nantucket, not just to see what people say about his book, but honestly to figure out what it is about love that he just doesn't understand. And Miss Meg is going to teach him all about love, friendship, and the direction he needs to be going for his writing. So the same night that the book club is supposed to discuss Graham's book that was published under a pseudonym, Meg finds out that a very popular podcaster is coming back to see who's found love at the Blind Date Book Club, because so far at least one couple has definitely met through the book club. So this same night, this is not a perfect thing. So obviously the book club discusses the book, and actually they kind of rip it apart. They really said it wasn't that good. It felt unfinished. It felt like the love story was not developed. So it turns out Graham's editor was correct. It's not that Graham can't write. He is just not there yet to make this story into something vivid, believable, something that the readers will crave from, like they do his series. Anyway, the book gets bad reviews. It comes out that Meg knows that Graham was the author of the book. It seems like she's doing him some favors. She gets pretty upset, and she's like, maybe it's time to sell the bookstore. And it's just, everything is just a mess. What does Graham do? He goes back and he finishes the 8th book of his series, and his editor let him know that if he continues to work on the current story that he's telling, his editor will bring it to other publishers. It's just a matter of he's got to fully develop the love story. So what does he do? He develops a love story in real life. He's in love with Meg. He wants her to stay in Nantucket. He wants to stay in Nantucket with her. And he wants her to keep the bookstore open and to do what she's passionate about. And what does Meg realize? Meg realizes that she does love that bookstore, and that bookstore is her new passion. It's not real estate. And baby, one of the things we learn from this movie is it's okay to have new passions and to dream as we get older. It is okay to develop those dreams. It's never too late as long as you're breathing. Baby, I really enjoyed the Blind Date Book Club. It's a 7 out of 10. I definitely think it's a must watch. Let me know if you watched it, what you thought about it. I just thought this was a great way for Hallmark to come back and let us know that spring has sprung and so has love, baby. I can't wait to reread The Alchemist because that's what this movie made me want to do. It's KJM and I'm out.